Hello and welcome back to the channel. So we're going to continue on our lessons today. Today's going to be a little bit more complicated than others, but we're going to get through it one piece at a time. So as a reminder, this series is to learn PowerShell for non-IT individuals. It's for students, teachers, attorneys, office workers who can find a way to automate what they're doing already. Let the computer do your boring automated tasks while you spend your time and energy on things better suited for your own skills. Let the computer do these boring automated tasks. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and import our grade CSV that we've been working on for a few lessons now. And as a reminder, in case you are new, we had a CSV file that had students, their assignments, and their grades. And for each student, we want to find what is their individual average max min grade. We've already done the max min average for the entire classroom. That was super simple. We did that in a few videos ago, and now we'll do it per student. So one of the ways that we can do this, instead of going straight to the measure, is we can go ahead and group these. Right now, we can do group by and group it by the students. So let's go ahead and do so. So we're going to do A, we're going to pipe it into group object, and we're going to say student. Once we do that, we can see the following. We have a count of how many rows there were of each student, the names of each student, and we have a group. So this group are all of the different line items that they grouped together. And so if I go ahead real quick and do what we had just done right here, let me just copy it. And I put this into variable B. Now if I type variable B in here, it'll give me the exact same object. And the reason I want to show this is I want to show what we do if we play around with this sum before we move into the full lesson. So if we just grab the first instance, and as a reminder, PowerShell begins its counting with 0, we should get this first line. So the 0 index of B is this first line. If we were to do 1, we would get the next student. So right now we can do a dot afterwards, and we can get various things from it. We can say, let me just get the name. We just have the name. We can say, oops, one too many. We can say the count and get the count of 6. And we can also say group. And now group will show me just all of these concatenated list over here, this array over here, in the format that we were used to seeing earlier. So we have the student, the assignment, and the grade. Now, of course, we learned from our last video, we can do measure object on it. And we want to measure, of course, the grade column here. So if you want to say, just say grade by itself, or you could say property grade if we want to be all the way formal and verbose there. And we want to see the maximum, we want to see the minimum, and let's get the average as well. And so if we go ahead and do that, we can see for this first student, which is Cherry Valentine, we have the average, the maximum, the minimum of their grades. So we can use this to get us these same values for each student in a nice way, similar to what we have up here. So we'd get the names and we get all of their various aspects that we're looking for. So let's go back up to what we had done earlier. We have A, and we're grouping the students. And now we're going to do the select object, which we've learned previously. And we need to select the objects from this. So we have count, name, and group. If we want anything other than these, we'll have to create a custom one. So even though the original value had student, if I put student in here, it's not going to give me anything. If we don't have student in this grouping. We have name now. So let's go ahead and say name. We have a list of the names of all the students. Now we're going to take exactly what we did over here, and we are going to use this as our base. And let me show you what I mean by that. So the next thing we're going to want after this is a custom column, and we know the format is this. We know the format is name. We're going to give it the name that we want. Let's do AVG for average, semicolon. We're going to do expression equals, and then we need to put what the expression is within these curly brackets right here. So for each of the items, each of the objects up here, for each one of these, we want to look at the group. So we're going to go group 1, group 2, 3, 4, going down. So let's put in dot group. I actually had copied and pasted part of it, so let me put it in. And this is exactly what we had done earlier. We're going to measure the property of grade, and for this we're going to say maximum, minimum, and average. So if I were to just hit enter right now, we're going to say this is a generic measurement info. It doesn't know what to do because it is getting all of these. It's getting all of them, even the ones that are blank. We need to specify which ones we want to take a look at. So we're going to add a little bit more detail to this. So around the beginning and around the end of what we are looking at, we're going to do a dot, and you can actually see right here, it already knows these are the items that are going to be in this measure object. So we're wanting the average, since we're looking at the average. So if I go ahead and hit enter, sure enough, we have the name and we have average. Now this is a little bit messy because it's so many decimal places, it's getting a bit hard to read. So at the end of this average, let's do a dot to string, because right now it's a number, and we're going to format this. We're going to do 00.00, and if we hit enter again, we now have a nice uniform length of 2 values, a decimal, and 2 values. Makes it much easier to read. So what we can do now is just copy this, all of this average, all of this custom one we just made. Let's copy it, do a comma, and let's paste it. Now we don't want the average again, so let's do the max. And we can say instead of average right here, we need to make it match to maximum. Let's copy and paste it one more time. And now we will also say instead of average, we'll say min for minimum. Now technically we don't need these other ones in here for this minimum. We don't need this max here. We don't need this average here. And if I were dealing with a bunch of data, I would remove it because it's going to do extra calculations. It doesn't need to. But since we have such a small data set, it should be fine. So when we hit enter, we now have what we were wanting earlier. We're having the name, the average, the max, and the min for each. Now we could stop there, but let's just go one further. And let's now sort this by name. Sorry, not name. Let's do it by the average, AVG is what we had called it. And let's do it as descending, so it goes from high to low. And there we are. We can see now the ranking of the students in the classroom by their average. Sarah's on top and Jerry is at the bottom. So I'm hoping this helped. I'm hoping you can see that we can slowly build upon what we have learned piece by piece, part by part. Don't be afraid to break it down into multiple steps as we have done here, because that is the way to learn. And whenever we get into the Excel series, you're going to see the exact same thing. I often have complicated formulas in my work, but it really isn't complicated when you break it down piece by piece. And I always build it part by part, seeing what works, making edits, adding to it, making sure I'm finding the bugs along the way. Because if you just try and type it all at once, if I were to try and type this all at once, I would probably make a typo somewhere. But as you do it piece by piece, it really makes it simple. So this is extremely helpful. I'm hoping you can use this. If you found it helpful, please press like. I would really appreciate if you want to do any comments down below for comments that you have, any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer you. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And with that said, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.